Well, it's Tuesday Wrestling, and we all know what that means. That means once again we get to review NWA Powerrr, AEW Dark, and of course NXT. Now, don't forget, in NXT 2.0, we have a 20-woman battle royal to determine the number one contender who will be facing Mandy Rose for the NXT Women's Championship. But also, before we do all that, we're going to review the latest Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling event, Day 3 of the Tokyo Princess Cup 9. We only have 2 matches in the second round. So who advances? Well, we're going to be talking about that, but also we cannot forget our news updates, what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, let's begin with Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling with Tokyo Princess Cup 9. This took place recently on the 18th, which was yesterday, since today is the 19th. This is day 3, of course. It opened up with Maki Ito teaming up with Mahito Kiru and Yuki Kamifuka, who's also sort of a member of the Ito Respect Army. But they were facing off against Haruna Neko, Miyu Watanabe, and Rika Tatsumi. So this was a very interesting match because, as you know, Rika and Miyu are very good of a efficient tag team. So is Kamifuku and Maki in the past, along with Mahito Kiru. But in fact, it was, of course, Maki Ito that pulled off the Texas Cloverleaf on Neko in order for her to tap out, giving the win to Maki Ito and her team. Next up, we got a 3-way match. We got Arisu Endo, Noah Kakuta, and of course, our current champion, Shoko Nakajima. Now, I know some of you are thinking in the back of your mind, once I mentioned that name, automatically it feels like Nakajima could be the next the one who could win this particular match. But however, I have seen now Kakuta, who's been growing and growing. I know she had some great success even when she teams up with Hikari Noah. She always uses like a little bit of dirty tricks that Hikari does every single time. It always helps, but she pulled off a cutter onto Arisu Endo, allowing herself to pick up a good win. However, Shoko Nakajima was a little late, but she should be lucky that she didn't pin her, because otherwise, Kakuta would have been the one to challenge her for the belt at some point in the future. Now, our next match, we have Kaya Tobibari, Pam Arijuko, and Yukio Anoe, and Hyper Misao taking on Moka Miyamoto, Suzumi Mizuki, and Yuka Sakazaki. So you probably think this is going to be a very interesting matchup. It is. I was like, when you look at Mizuki and Yuka Sakazaki, they are an unstoppable force in a tag team division. As you know, the only thing that Hyper Misawa has in order to win is, of course, her dirty tricks. That's always been her game. And so far, those tricks did not work this time. Because, however, in this particular match, it was I think it was Mizuki who picked up a very good win. Never mind. No, Suzumi picked up a good win when she pulled off a cutter onto Kaya Toribami. I thought it was pretty good. I watched Suzumi, how much she has grown. Suzumi's really impressive. I hope that, we can see her succeed even more in the tournament, but that's going to be another time. Now, our next 2 matches are part of the tournament. The first one is Raku versus Miyu Yamashita. Now, I don't know what Raku was planning on. She brought a pillow. I'm like, what's with the pillow? and it turns out that she was sleeping in bed. Miyu Yamashita had no clue what to make of it. I feel like I'm like watching when, of course, we saw like there was this match that involved Orange Cassidy where he was falling asleep, not to wake him up. But in this case, it was, of course, more of the much of the tricks that Raku does in order to pick up the win. She almost could have had it, but however, it did not go exactly according to plan until she got that spinning round kick right into the face, and boom, adios. So basically, it gave Yamashita the advancement, so she moves on. Now, our final match is Yuki Arai taking on Hikari Noa. I thought this match was very tough because, these two have teamed up in the past, but as you know, Yuki Arai is one half of the tag team champions. I would suspect that Hikari Noa would like to have another shot of those titles because this is one of those titles she hasn't been able to win. She tried it a few times, but it was Hikari Noa who picked up a huge victory onto Yuki Arai. And I mentioned this on a previous that she's going to be leaving to an overseas expedition. Now, however, there is still no indications whether she'll be going to AEW. As you know, Joshi Pro does have a partnership with them. There's no indications on that yet, but she said that she's going over there to train. So not much, but Hikari Noa, I have to say, I'm very impressed with her because I have seen her grown as a singles competitor and a tag team competitor. So we'll see what happens down the line. So I believe right now we're ending it right here with Joshi Pro and moving on with NWA USA. Okay, NWA Powerrr. It opened up with a three-way exhibition women's match. We have Max the Impaler, Ella Envy, and of course Taya Valkyrie. Now this was a very interesting dynamic match because if you look at this, Max the Impaler is the most intimidating female wrestler you guys get to see. She's a monster. However, Ella Envy tried to get out. This turned it into a horror film for her in the process. But the way it went, Ella Envy tried to be smart, but it was not enough. But Taya and Max kind of realized, okay, let's just get rid of the weakest link, and that was, of course, Ella Envy. And it kind of helped. But however, later they focused on each other, which was proper. But Ella tried to get involved, but it did not work until she ended up victim by Max the Impaler. But during the post-match comments with Kyle Davis, don't know what was her deal. But the strange thing is, Father James Mitchell showed up. Basically, it's more like don't know what goes on in that brain of his, but we'll see what that discovered. But however, we do know she has her sights set on the women's championship match that Camille has. Now, our next match we have OGK, Mike Bennett, and Matt Taven taking on La Rebellion with a surprise person by their side, none other than Bestia 666 dad, Damien 666. This match was a much brutal anticipation match because we didn't know how this was going to end. It ended with a no contest. So basically, that's how it finished. But don't know exactly what they were trying to do as soon as that. But as soon as they couldn't control this match, Damien 66 came up and took matters in his hands, and he missed Matt Taven. So he was like, ah! So he was out. So basically, we could see maybe a rivalry in these two tag teams. Now, we do get an interview with Natalia Markova. As you know, she's not a happy camper, and of course, she's being annoyed by Taryn Terrell. Natalia Markova had her sights set on the women's championship, but it looks more like she can't due to an injury she said she obtained. So doctors are telling her she can't do it, but she's willing to fight through the pain regardless. So we'll see what happens then, because everybody wants a piece of Camille. Now we do get another interview by May Valentine. This time, it's the very unusual pairing, Austin Idol and his son Zion. So basically, they're getting along great from what they're telling, but Idol said, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm asking you what to do. So Zion realized, yes, he hated him, but he felt like the final piece of the puzzle to his conquest is to listen to his dad. So it looks more like he really is going to learn from him. And of course, he's willing to accept them. So this is going to be a very interesting dynamic taking place. Now, uh, our next match, we have Magic Jake Dumas along with CJ to take on Eric Jackson. This match, well, there was not much hype, but however, it did ended with Magic Jake Dumas winning the match, but he used the card right in the eyes into Eric Jackson, trying to prove a point. But sooner or later, his tricks are going to be running out. Now, we do see a very interesting interview with Kyle Davis talking to the boss, William Patrick Corgan. He talked about his opportunities, what he's been building up, because he knows at this point the vocal point is the world heavyweight title. So he's trying to balance out what ways it could happen. But he did stated that he will stand by his decision, giving the Cardona family, ever since of course Matt Cardona was confused what to do with the title. So that kind of fits in. So basically he was being honest, trying to say, yes, if I have to do this, so be it. So we'll see about that. Now, May Valentine had another interview, this time with Odison, who is in fact has his sights set on the NWA World Television title from Tyrus, and of course Kobe Corino feels that Kerry Morton is jealous of him. To be honest, I don't think he is. He just doesn't like the fact that there are other second generation wrestlers that he believes they're nothing compared like him. So that's how he sees. But we'll see about that down the line. Now our main event is the Race to Chase 4-way match. We have Brian Myers, Mike Knox, Tom Latimer, and Nick Aldis. Now, Myers and Knox were being a team in order to ensure that only those two can end up in the end, that one day one of them can win the 10 pounds of gold. But however, there was a mixed communication when Mike Knox took out Brian Myers, giving Nick Aldis the opportunity to win the match. 1, 2, 3. He is now the #1 contender to face off against Trevor Murdoch. So we don't know when that match will take place. I'm going to assume maybe on NWA 74. That's the possibility. But we'll see what happens then. But right now, I believe it's time to move on with AEW Dark. Okay, AEW Dark opened up with Jora Jarrell along with Private Party to take on Luke Sampson. Now, not much of the story is being built with him. Only we know is that Private Party were under the payment of Andrade El Idolo. But I felt that this match didn't show too much. But I don't know what happened in the end, where was it botched, or they messed up on the timing. Uh, Nothing cheating came around from Jora Joel, and I think I don't know why, but it seems like he won clean mess with a pump kick, and it gave him the W. So that kind of confused me, but we'll see what happens then. Next match we have, of course, Lee Moriarty taking on Ren Jones. I thought this match had a great technical aspect in this match until Lee Moriarty applied the Border City stretch that gave him the W. I thought it was a great match. A little bit of the technical aspects that was built upon. Now our next match we have Fuego del Sol talking about his moment that he's going to have his match with none other than QT Marshall, and he's on fire on this one. Now our next match we have Serena Deeb taking on Viva Van. As you know, Serena Deeb is in a good mood because she'll be challenging for the ROH Women's Championship, but she was able to defeat her clean, but she decided to punish Viva Van with more of the Serenity Lock, and it kind of sending a direct message to none other than Mercedes Martinez. Next up, we got Marina Shafir taking on Amber Nova. This match ended with a strong submission because, as you know, she is an MMA fighter. She put on the what's it called? The Mission Greedy leg lock, whatever it's called, that sealed the deal for her to pick up the win. Next up, we got the Japanese sensation Konosuke Takeshita taking on Anthony Green. I thought this match was unbelievably good. I see Anthony Green, what he can do, but it was amazing. but it was the jumping knee that sealed the deal for Konosuke Takeshita to pick up the win, and I thought it was great. Next match, we got Jonathan Gresham versus Jordan or Oasis. I thought this match had a little bit of a new attitude with Gresham. As you know, the way he ended it, he made a lot of pain onto Jordan's knee, forcing him to tap out. He was like stomping away on it, giving him that satisfaction. But we'll see what happens when we get to this Saturday at Death Before Dishonor. Next up, we got Wheeler Yuta versus Bryce Donovan. This match was unbelievably amazing, and of course, it ended with, of course, the German suplex, which was good. But however, he did state a little promises that he is that, of course, Daniel Garcia called him that he is a Daniel Garcia cosplayer. Basically, he thinks he's even though Wheeler knows he's delusional, but he gave him a stern warning about what's going to happen once he loses to him. But we'll see what happens then. Next up, we got Danhausen taking on Jake Something. Now, you probably say this one's going to end with Jake Something winning because he's huge. No. Danhausen used a little bit of his street smarts in order to pick up the victory, and I thought it was pretty amazing with him to pick up a good win. I was surprised. He pulled up a roll up, and 1, 2, 3, it was over right from there. Next up, we have the Renegade Twins, Charlotte, and of course, Robin taking on Avery Brooks and Valentina Rossi. Now, we don't know who's who, and that kind of it's been their MO. It's like they're using techniques that was done by the Tabella Twins, but they want to make it a lot better. So that kind of said things. So I'm sure we will find out who's who if you guys pick it up. But it gave, of course, the Renegade Twins the time to win. Our next match, we have Mercedes Martinez versus J-Rod, which is, instead of at the point, is with the dash. J-Rod. The match ended with, of course, the Brass City Sleeper. That kind of fits in pretty well, but however, Serena Deeb comes out, sending a direct message to, of course, Mercedes Martinez that she's going to be coming for the belt. Our next match, we have the Varsity Blondes taking on Terrence and Terrell Hughes, the sons of Devon Dudley. I thought this match was pretty interesting how it's going to turn up, but it was, of course, the Varsity Blondes with their techniques that helped them win the match. I thought it was great. Next up, we got QT Marshall versus Fuego. The Factory tried to get involved, but they were sent back. It went on one-on-one. I thought this match was great, but unfortunately, it did not. It ended with QT Marshall winning the match. But sooner or later, Fuego will get his match against him. Now, our next match, we have Lethal, Jay Lethal taking on Logan Cruz. This match ended with a figure 4 leg lock, sending a direct message to Samoa Joe, and that's always been his case. Next up, we got Daniel Garcia versus Alan Five Angels. I thought this match was good until Alan Angels was put on the Rock's side of the Scorpion Deathlock, and of course Garcia tried to punish him more until one way or the other Wheeler showed up, sending a direct message that he is not going to beat him at Ring of Honor Dishonor. So we'll see what happens when we get there. So right now, let's move on to our last review, NXT 2.0. Okay, our last review is NXT 2.0. It opened up with Cameron Grimes versus JD McDonough. As you know, he was formerly known as Jordan Devlin. So this is kind of like we're seeing him now establishing in NXT 2.0. As you know, he is playing this guy who is willing to get what he wants. But Cameron Grimes put a hell of a fight against him. But unfortunately, it was, of course, JD McDonough who picked up the strong victory. However, Joe Gacy was lurking around, checking out. Now, the obvious question is, who was he scouting? Was it Jordan Devlin or Cameron Grimes? Later, it was shown when, of course, Cameron Grimes was not a happy camper that he lost. He had no word to say, but Joe Gacy showed up. Looks more like he wanted to recruit him because we don't know much what's been going on. Now, as you know, Cora explained herself what took place. This is something that was discussed on a YouTube video that I saw yesterday, where we normally wait a week after what happened. Cora Jade said that she did this because she thought this whole thing was a lie with Roxanne and this and that the tag team titles don't mean anything. She tossed hers into the trash. So that kind of sells in, but sooner or later Roxanne will get her payback. Now Zion Quinn gets an interview talking about he will defeat Apollo Creeds, claiming that he's lost the edge. So we'll see about that. Our next match we have Roderick Strong versus Damon Kemp. This was a very good match, and I thought it was very impressive. But however, that match was interrupted with the appearance of the D'Angelo family, where they attacked the Creed brothers. Now Damon Kemp was planning to abandon his team in order to get to the others, but apparently Roderick Strong didn't do that. He didn't let it happen, so he decided to pick up the victory himself instead. Now, once again, Pretty Deadly, as you know, they continue to run their mouths saying that they're going to regain the NXT UK tag team titles because they're theirs. However, they will not be satisfied with, of course, Briggs and Jensen. But however, Brooks and Jensen are ready for this match, and I think it's going to show pretty well what they're going to do. Now, the Creed brothers, as you know, recently we saw that beat down that they get. It appears that they are not happy with everything that turns out. Now, our next championship match we have is the NXT UK Tag Team Titles, Brooks and Jensen versus Pretty Deadly. Now, this match was very interesting because, of course, Pretty Deadly are known to find ways to cheat their way through to regain their loss. However, things did not go according to plan. However, what's her name? Fallon decided to help, gave them an opportunity to pick up a huge victory. So, what does this mean for what's their name? Pretty Deadly? Well, they got to go back into the drawing board. Now, for quite some time, we've been seeing these guys called the Dyads, hooded figures. We don't know who they were until they finally revealed themselves to be none other than formerly of grizzled young veterans, Jagger Reed, that is, what's his name? James something, and then of course Rip Fallon, Zach Gibson. I thought this was a very interesting thing. I don't know what to make of it, but we'll see what happens. Now, Braun Breaker shows up looking for JD, as you know what he did to him in 3 weeks ago. It kind of put him in that predicament. Now, Wesley, as you know, he has some things in mind. He wants to get his hands on Trick Williams, but however, of course, what's his name? I forgot his name. Grayson Waller. Okay. Wesley is calling out Grayson Waller and, of course, Trick Williams. So the idea what happened is Trick Williams put stuff on his eye, so that's not over yet. But he's trying to get help from, well, Grayson Waller, as you know, blames him for losing his match. Well, that wasn't his fault. Trick Williams was involved, so that kind of stirred things up. Now, Braun Breaker, on the other hand, comes out throwing a promo, calling out what's his name? Joe Gacy. He wasn't no, not Joe Gacy. JD Dunham, as you know, McDonough. Basically, he was saying that he found a weak spot, but of course, Braun Breaker's not going to listen to this crap. So that kind of puts it in a good way, where he's like, shut up, I need to hear this. Now, last Friday, there was an altercation between Solo Sikoa taking on with Von Wagner, where he attacked him from behind after a SmackDown event. So basically, he just murderized them, and I thought that was insane. Now, our next match, we have Axiom versus Dante Chen. I thought this match was a little weird because I thought I had a little bit of expectations of what they could have done, but it did not. Now, some of you ask yourself, who's Axiom? Well, it turns out is, what's his name? A Kid behind the mask. I don't know why they repackaged them, but hopefully one day we can find out. But yeah. Now, of course, Mello and Trick ended up going to the barbershop, talk about who's going to be their next opponent, who doesn't have the capabilities, that sort of thing. But however, we see the 20 women Royal Battle Royal match. I was a bit of surprised of the winner because I did not expect her, because the one person we did not anticipate was going to show up was Zoe Starks. Now, if you guys remember, Zoe Starks won the tag titles, but well, she couldn't win the tag titles with Io Shirai due to the injury that she obtained by what's her name, Toxic Attraction. It kind of sets in, but I thought it was very interesting that Zoe Starks pulled off a good win in this one. I gave her props for that. I'm a big fan of hers, but we'll see what happens then. So she's going to face against Mandy Rose soon. Let's see what happens then. So I think we should just right here move on to our next up, news updates. Okay, for our news updates, there's been word about in the AEW talent and staff over the return of Kenny Omega. Now we know that he's been out of action for almost a year or so due to some injuries he obtained. Now the theory is they believe that he may come back in All Out, which could be a possibility, but we will pay attention to that until that day comes. Now, Garden State Pro Wrestling announced for their upcoming event, Welcome to Eden. Edith Surreal had to be removed from this match due to the fact that she contracted the virus. So the promotion did a little creative thinking. They decided to replace Edith with none other than Got to Move's very own and the current Super 8 champion, Balanaki. So it looks like he is now making a big role. I think it's pretty great that he actually gets an opportunity of this. Now, two things that took place with Pro Wrestling Waves. One, there's going to be a 15-year anniversary where the Reina de Wave Championship will be put on the line between the current champion, Suzuki, taking on none other than the very first AEW Women's Champion, Hikari Shida. I thought this match was going to show a lot of magic in this one. So, yeah. But however, speaking of the former champions, in Pro Wrestling Wave, Nagisa Nozaki is going to be out for quite some time. Turns out that she had a rupture anterior cruciate ligament on her left knee, so that means she's going to be out for quite some time, maybe 6 to a year. I'm not sure, but it's kind of messed up. But of course, several wrestlers sent up their love to her, all this and that. So I did not know she actually got injured, but she'll be fine. Now our last update here, we have Ganbare Pro. It turns out that Inamari has issued a challenge to none other than Shigeru Iri for a shot at the title, and of course he accepted. So basically, it just went well. So I think that's pretty much it what we got with news updates. So right now I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Just to let everybody know, today is the 19th of July. The 20th is the first day when I work in Comic-Con. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to review anything, but for now, I'll just see what happens then. I can't wait to get this done, and about that. And of course, we have New Japan with the G1 Climax, and of course we have AEW Dynamite. So we'll see how this one is going to turn out. So right now, let's just say that I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.